Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to DDP Snake Pit. And of course, we couldn't do it without the Hall of Famers themselves. Jake the Snake Roberts, how are you, man?
I'm a lovely person sometimes.
Sometimes that is true. DDP, what's going on with you, man?
Never had a bad day in my life, brother. Plenty of sore ones, but no bad ones.
Well, where we picked up where we left off last week, we'll keep it going again this week. Jake is trying to find his way outside of WCW, and Dallas, you're trying to find your way here in WCW in late 1992. You've spent some time working matches with Van Hammer and Eric Watts. You also spent a little time working with Cold Scorpio. As a fan, I thought he was way ahead of his time in 92. What was your perception of him as a performer, Dallas?
Yeah, I mean, like he was like he was so far ahead of his time, really. Like if he would have came up with these guys today, like the aerial stuff that he could do. And he was a big guy. He wasn't like, 5'9". He's good 6 foot and, put together. And he was just a smooth character. He was smooth, man. And,
Maybe too smooth.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think he was, all around. He was fun to work with in the ring. Likened him to Canyon in ways that, he could dance with you and make you look better than you were. So that's the art. I think I learned it sometime from Jake. Jake used to say, "Don't make people look too good because then that's going to be your job."
No, but it's always good to build your opponent, though.
Yeah.
Because if you build your opponent, if you get beat, you got beat by somebody that's pretty damn good. But if you go out there and make your opponent look like crap, then you got beat by nobody.
Right.
That's one thing Bill Watts taught me. Damn it. Never expose your opponent's weakness.
Oh, I thought Too Cold was awesome, man. And again, I like you just said, like really ahead of his time. I would love to see like transfer him like 20 years in the future and see what he would do with some of these kids today. Because he was working at a spot that he was at the highest level of working that style. These guys today are doing shit that like I don't know how there's not been 40 broken necks. There's going to be a lot of residual, pain.
A lot of wheelchairs coming.
Yeah, there's got a lot of wheelchairs coming because it's just you can't. You're a human being. Your body can only take so much. And I'll bet you he's feeling pretty decent though. For a guy, because he was a guy who was always stretching out, and I'm sure he found a way to feel the weather some of the beatings he put his body through.
He was a big guy too. A lot of the guys doing the acrobatic stuff these days are a little smaller, but he was not a little man.
It's kind of like Rob Van Dam.
Yeah.
RVD, again, another cat way ahead of his time. And RVD, he's a solid 230, 235, he's a big guy. And God bless him, he's still out there doing it today. But back then he was, he was really put together. And when you got hit by RVD, you got hit by RVD.
You also wound up working with a very young Marcus Alexander Bagwell. We'll talk about Buff another time, but
there's a couple of chapters there.
Oh God.
But the rookie Marcus Alexander Bagwell, how was that? I mean, it feels weird from a booking standpoint. You're a new guy yourself, and you're working with Van Hammer, a new guy, Eric Watts, a new guy, Marcus Bagwell, a new guy. That had to be a challenge at times.
It was, the cool part was we all bonded. So, and I would pretty much take the helm on laying stuff out because I really understood. That's the one thing that Jake really taught me, that you could go in a match, even with me really early, even though I didn't execute it the way it should have been. I was starting to learn the language of how to put a match together for the highs and lows. And it really didn't really hit till I got to Mark Merrow. When I got to Mark Merrow, then things, because he worked with me. Again, another guy who was just as green as I was. but that's where it really got. But go back to Marcus. Like I can remember Marcus, and we talk about it today. Like I can remember, like I'm the first guy to ice his body in professional wrestling by, I don't know, 5 years of me doing it before anyone else did it. And that's only because there was a trainer.
Yeah, we used to laugh at it.
Yeah,
Poke fun at it.
Austin, when I just was on his podcast in December, and we talked about like driving down the road drinking a beer, because that's what you did back then. But I would have ice bags on both knees and on my back in the beginning. Later, it'd be on both my shoulders too. I would have 5 ice bags on me. But in the beginning, it was just both knees and my back. And Austin would put his beer in between my ace bandages that were around the ice bags to keep them cold. And I went, wow, that's a really good idea. And I would say to Buff, I can remember asking him back when he was Marcus, I would go, Marcus, aren't you ever sore? Like, don't you ever like feel beat up? You need to ice your body? Nope, feel great. Feel amazing. Yeah. Of course, I was 36 and he was 22.
Right.
And at 22, you feel like you're indestructible, and you can keep going out and bumping and bumping and bumping and bumping and bumping. Let's just look at one of the greatest bumpers of all time. No, that wasn't you.
Oh,
Curt Hennig.
Right.
Mr. Perfect, who took bumping to a different level. He was a young man when he came to WCW and we worked together. I want to say maybe, because I was like 40 and I knew I was older than him, I want to say maybe he was 37, 38. And he could still get that good, amazing bump in once in a while, but he couldn't do that shit he did before. I mean, the stuff he could do before, Warrior hit him and he threw himself over the top rope. But if you watch Hennig, and I watch this kind of stuff, when Hennig would go over, his one hand would catch the rope. Mm-hmm. And as he was going down, his other hand would catch the rope. And then the other hand would catch the rope before he hit the ground.
Slowing him down.
Just slowing some of that impact down. But for him to be a guy, when I started to work with him for the belt, I realized like, wow, like this is another guy I idolized in the ring because he was so amazing. But now, and I'm older than him, we're working together and we're on top, and I'm being able to work at the same level as him. And there's some points I think I can even do that better than him. But that was only because he was more beat up than I was. And, that's the thing with Marcus. You could do anything with Marcus because he was a great athlete. He was one of those kids who, quarterback, running back, or whatever the hell he was in football, but star. Everything he did, he was a golden boy.
He was a stud.
He was a stud. And unfortunately for Marcus, he could put a lot of heat on himself,
Heat-seeking missile.
But he was smart enough to befriend Sting, who loved him, and Luger. Like, who better to be, associated with as time would go on that would keep a lot of that real heat off of him. I always loved Marcus, and he's going through some tough times right now, and we've been talking, and it's hard because with Jake, when I would help Jake we had a relationship where if I said, listen, Jake, this is how we have to do this, he would respect it and work towards that. Marcus is still his own animal. He still thinks, he's going to do what he wants to do. And I think over the last few months we've been talking, I think that he's getting more, just let me drive for a little while, bro. You know what I mean? That's all I want to do. Because when Jake let me drive, we have really great success. And Marcus is at the spot today where he really wants to be, because there's not many people who are as gracious with the fans as Buff Bagwell is. I mean, he loves the fans. They love him. I think that, going back to our time together, we bonded really strong. And that was the whole thing of the guys that we came up together. There was one time, my favorite moments with Marcus when he was buff, 1997. And I don't remember what building we were in, but he brought me out into the bathroom. He said, I got to talk to you. And people were chanting DDP. And I'm not even in the building. I'm in the back. And he said, everybody laughed when you said you were going to be a wrestler and how you're going to be a top guy and you're going to be one of the top guys in the business. And he's like, listen to that, man. He's like, look who's laughing now. So
no better feeling.
Oh God, it's crazy. Knowing that, one of your peers that you came up with, because Marcus and I he was a year ahead of me, in the ring, because I was doing the managing thing still. But he was such a naturally gifted athlete. If I said, okay, let's do this, he could do it, especially when he was young.
Well, I think everybody listening to this hopes that he's the next great wrestling success story, and we're pulling for him. But it does make me wonder, as we've sort of laid out your trek through wrestling so far, whether it was a manager or the early year of wrestling here, could you have ever imagined yourself at that time ever being a babyface? You had strictly worked heel, right?
Hell no.
Who called him a babyface?
Friggin' hell no. And I didn't want to be a babyface. It was too much fun
being a heel.
Oh God. Yeah, I told you I did Austin's podcast in December, and he goes back and does a lot of research on his people. And me and him, I've been on his show 10 times.
Yeah.
If he runs out of a guest, D, you got an hour and a half. I'm like, when? Right, 10 minutes. I got to get it. All right, let's go. And I always pop on. So we've talked about everything. But during that podcast, we talked about so many different things. And one of the things, he went back to the AWA and he watched me talking smack for Pat Tanaka, Paul Diamond, Medusa Michelli, Colonel De Beers. And he was like, man, you had like this rap down before. I mean, it sounded like you've been doing it for years. And what really helped me was being in a nightclub business and being up on stage. And I do the hot legs contest and the lip sync contest and the wet t-shirt contest and the bikini contest. I got in the DJ booth. I did my stuff, and then I started cutting all my own commercials. So I could do it 30-second or 60-second. So it wasn't that hard just finding this character. It was just figuring out who the hell he was. And as a heel, way easier to get heat than it is to get people to cheer for you. Think about the guys who, even Sting was a heel when he was with Warrior back in the day. But Sting's one of the few guys who've been a babyface the whole damn time.
Yeah.
Ricky Steamboat, was he ever a heel?
I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so. But those are the only two guys, because to really understand being a babyface, you have to be a heel, because, it's like, stay down. No, sell, because it doesn't mean anything if you don't sell. And, just having the matches that I had in the beginning, I was always looking like I stole a lot from Jake, but I stole a piece from Perfect. I stole a piece from, Funk. I can remember going over the ropes, twisting myself, falling into the cables and pulling myself through the cables and getting myself hit the turnbuckle, fall over into the people, getting back up all with wires all over me. That was like Terry Funk stuff that I thought was just genius. And, a little piece of it, and steal,
So Jake, from your perspective, I think most everybody watching this remembers you mostly as a heel, but man, you had a babyface run. You were once tagging with Hogan and Demolition at Survivor Series, and you got to play a little bit of both, but you chirped up right there. You really preferred playing the heel. What didn't you like about being a babyface?
Well, as a baby face, you're expected to do certain things, certain moves, act a certain way, and make yourself available for people. But as a heel, you can go in any direction you want. You know, you can take a different perspective on everything and just go out there and take off. The people are going to hate you anyway, so go ahead and do it. But, you know, you talked about Survivor Series. Would you like to hear a good story on Survivor Series?
Love to.
All right. All right. So, you know, Survivor Series is such a big thing that WWF at the time. And, you know, I've done this change, and now I'm going to be partnered up with Demolition and Hogan. Freaking main event, bro. That's where you want to be.
Yeah.
Vince comes to me, he goes, Jake, I got this vision. What's that? He goes, can you get a bigger snake? I'm like, Vince, some bitch I got's 120 pounds. I can't hardly carry anything else. See, people don't realize you carry that thing out to the ring, you're out of gas. Then at the end of the match, when you're really blown up, you got to carry it back and it's out of the bag. Man, sometimes I barely made it. I'm telling you, lots of times I barely made it.
I don't know how you did.
It was unbelievable, man. But anyway, he says, can you get a bigger snake? I'm like, I can't hardly carry that one. He goes, no. I want one so big that all four of you will carry it. I'm like, what do you mean? He said, well, I want y'all to go to the ring with this huge ass snake, Hogan at the head, you're next, then Demolition. He goes, that would be so great on camera. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. Everybody's supposed to be afraid of the snake. And now these guys are going to be holding it too. That's kind of killing my gimmick, isn't it? Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Right.
You know? So I started thinking about what the hell can I do? So I called my snake guy, Albert, who, by the way, is Charles Manson revisited.
Right.
This guy, I'll tell you, during this show, in the upcoming weeks, you're going to hear a lot about Albert. Scary son of a bitch, man. Anyway, I said, Albert, they're wanting all four of us to carry the snake. He goes, well, that's not good, Jake. Nobody touches a snake but you. I'm like, you're right, Albert. So how do we combat this? He goes, what do you think? I'm like, can you get one that's so big that they can't do it? Oh, yeah. Don't worry. I got the perfect snake.
Oh, my God.
So I go on to Cleveland. That's where it was at. And we're all, you know, before a show, they're sending guys, they're timing guys walking from the back to the ring so they can get that figured in, you know, on the show. So Vince says, Jake says, is Albert here? And I said, yeah, I seen him earlier. He goes, well, did he bring the snake? I'm like, yeah, I think he did, but I don't know where it's at. And he goes, well, find him and let's get this thing done. So I go find Albert. He's hanging out in the rafters. Why, I don't know. And I did not ask. But I brought him down. I said, where's the snake? And he goes, it's right there. I'm like, right where there? And he goes, in that crate. That crate. And the crate was like huge. And it was like this deep, like 4 feet deep. I'm like, are you kidding me? He goes, it's massive. Well, Vince wants us to time it going to the ring. He goes, all right. We need a crowbar. So we got a crowbar. Albert starts prying the top of it off. He gets about 3/4 of the way around, and all of a sudden that damn top, which was huge, plywood, 2x4 enforced, goes flying. And this friggin' snake comes out, and the head of it is this big around.
Oh my.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it comes up and it just keeps going straight up in the air. Then it leans over. Albert runs over and leaps on it. Leaps on it. The snake picks him up and slaps him to the concrete.
Are you serious?
Albert's out. Yes. Oh yeah. Albert is out. Vince is screaming, my God, what is that? We're all running. 26 feet.
Wow.
280 pounds. Vince is screaming, get it back in the crate. Albert's out, Vince. Nobody else is grabbing that son of a bitch.
Oh my God.
And it took like 4 or 5 of us, man, to get a hold of it. I mean, Albert weighed like 160 pounds. He's not a big guy, but that snake picked him up and slapped him to that concrete, man.
Wow.
He could have swallowed one of us. That's how big he was. Albert showed me a picture of a snake swallowing a horse, which I didn't think was possible.
Wow.
It is possible. But this snake was so massive. Now, the worst thing the snake did, and the part that I loved, was when snakes get scared, they shit everywhere. And it's not like turds. It's a mist and a spray.
Oh.
Sort of like Kabuki did.
Oh God.
And if that shit lands on you, you can't wash it off. It destroyed the back end of the friggin' arena. And Vince was so friggin' pissed, man. And I'm like, I didn't know it was that big, which I didn't. It's the truth, honest. Trust me. Didn't hurt my gimmick. By God.
But Hulk Hogan did not carry the snake to the ring.
No, sir. He didn't touch my snake.
I just find it hard to believe that Terry would ever have grabbed a big ass head of a snake.
He wouldn't have grabbed that son of a bitch.
No,
No, I wouldn't either. I wouldn't
yeah.
grab the head of it.
Oh my God.
Because when he opened his mouth, man, it was like this. You know, and you're seeing like rows of teeth and these weird looking things in there. I ain't going in there. Way in hell.
That's a great
But
story.
sometimes you got to protect your gimmick, folks,
Yeah.
at any cost.
And it's more fun to be the heel, especially if you're the
Yes,
snake
sir.
man.
It's a great time being the heel, unless you're wrestling Hogan. And the fans like you more than they do him.
You were the first real anti-hero.
Right.
Yes.
Clint Eastwood
Yeah.
was in the movies.
Yeah.
But you were in our game. you
Well,
know?
here's the thing about fans. Kids love the fact that mom and dad cringed when that damn snake came out. Mom's over there freaking out. Dad's going, son of a bitch, I'd shoot him, you know. And these kids are like, yeah, I wish I had a snake. I'd scare the piss out of mom and dad, you know. And I don't know how many times that happened, but you know, whenever I got the opportunity to go with Hogan, man, oh my God, Phoenix, Arizona, we're going to do a snake pit. And we do a
87,
snake
maybe,
pit.
you think?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
I can't remember. I ain't gonna bullshit you.
Sure.
I can remember what happened. It
Yeah.
wasn't good. But we did a thing on the snake pit, and he's talking about, and I'm like, hey, what do you think of my python? And he's like, brother, the biggest pythons in the world are right here, you know, and he does his shit. And, you know, it went on, and I'm like, well, next week we'll have a tape measure, and we'll see who's got the biggest pythons. So the next week they've got a weight set up out there for Hogan to pump up with. So we measure his arm, and it was a gimmick tape. 21. I measure the snake, 21 and a half. So Hogan lays down on the bench, starts working out. Measure again, 21 and a half. It's the same as the snake. He goes, brother, these pythons are going to pump up a little bit more. And he starts to work out again. Well, I'm pissed off.
Right.
So I kibosh him, DDT on the set, which had the same result that it did with Steamboat, split his skull. You know, he's laying there bleeding, and I walk off the set. I walk off the set to the back, and Vince grabs me and hugs me. Oh, Jake, this is going to be magnificent. Oh, God, the money you guys are going to make.
Right.
And I'm sitting there going, finally, my dream, man. It's happening. God, thank you, Jesus. Oh, my God, I'm pissing myself. I'm so happy. And he said, stay right here with me. I'm like, what for? He goes, no, wait. He said, the people, they'll start chanting, Hulk, Hulk, Hulk. And he's going to come to his feet. He'll rip his T-shirt off, and he'll scream, beat his chest. He'll come looking for you. And we're talking about going straight to the bank with all this. Jake, Thank you. And he shakes my hand. We stand there. And we stand there. Then Ben starts to look around like, what the hell's going on? He looks out. Hogan's waiting for the people to start chanting. The people did. They started chanting, DDT, DDT. And Vince went, you're screwed.
Okay,
What do you mean I'm screwed? He goes, that's not what we want.
Right.
I'm like, what? Give it a shot. Shit, So they give it a couple of shots. They sent us to Portland, Maine, sold out, set the record in the building. Went to Montreal, sold out, in which it hadn't been sold out in years there before. Sold it out, turned them away.
Now, these are no cameras, right?
No cameras.
Right. Okay.
And here's what happened in the matches. DDT, DDT. Then says, that's it. No more. What do you mean no more? We're sold out. We turn away people. He goes, I don't give a damn. That's not what it's about. How much better can you get than a sellout? But the WWE didn't care about sellouts. It's all about marketing.
Yeah.
That's where the money's at. Vince used to say he didn't give a shit how many people came to the building because the marketing's where he makes his money. And that was it. They cut that program right then and there. And then they decided, well, we can't have Jake as a babyface. We got to turn him back heel. And they did what I considered impossible, but it's not, where you change two people at the same time. When Honky Tonk hit me with that guitar, he was a babyface. I was the heel. He hit me with a guitar, he turned heel, and I became a babyface at the same time, which is just, it's crazy. It's crazy. How do you do that? By selling and keeping people's emotions tied to that character. The snake thing has made me so much money. I might have been a pretty damn good wrestler. I might have been great on the interviews. But that damn snake made my career. It made my career. Without that snake,
that and the DDT.
That and the DDT was great. But that snake still keeps me out there selling product.
Yeah.
Because that snake is something those kids identify with.
Sure.
And mom and dad squirm. Now, who out there does not want to scare the shit out of their parents? We all did, for one reason or another. The fans, I just want you to know how bad you effed me. You cost me money.
He still hasn't dropped an F-bomb yet.
You call me millions, you fucking assholes.
There we go.
There it is.
You cost me millions. Thank you for costing me millions, because I'd have blown that on drugs too.
Yeah, right.
No, God bless you, fans.
You wouldn't be
But
here.
damn it, you screwed the shit out of me more than that Bill Watts ever thought about doing.
Specifically, the fans in Tucson, Arizona. In my research, I found this taping happened on December 10th, 1986. There were 4 episodes of Wrestling Challenged recorded that day, and they aired on December 21st, December 28th, January 4th, and January 11th. Mysteriously, all of those episodes had a snake pit except January 4th. Who was the guest that day? Hulk Hogan. And no one can explain why that footage was never seen, but now you know the real story.
That's
So
it. It was shown in 2 markets.
That's the kind of stuff you're going to be find out listening to DDP.
Hey, you know what I'm surprised about, man? At least I hit the right state. Maybe not the right city.
you hit the right
I said
snake.
Phoenix. But I did get the right state. So I'm getting closer.
That's good. That's good.
That's progress, folks.
It is indeed. Let's talk about some progress. Going back to you, Dallas, we talked a little bit about how when Jake's gone from WCW, you're going to start to be in a tag team, the Vegas Connection, you and Vinny Vegas. And of course, we know he goes on to become Diesel. He becomes a world champion. And then he helps create the magic of the NWO that we still talk about to this day. But boy, talk about humble beginnings. he was a Master Blaster, then he was Oz, then he was Vinny Vegas. And much
Well,
like
hold on, Connie. Before he wrestled, he worked
Mr. X.
he worked at my father-in-law's strip club.
Oh yes,
He was a bouncer.
No, he actually ran. He ran
He
the.
ran it.
He was the day manager at
The Cheetah.
the Cheetah. And
Crazy how things just keep running into each other, man.
yeah, man.
great. And we were both nightclub guys, which
Right.
you know, there's always something that me and Kevin.
I shouldn't have interrupted you there. Go ahead.
No, that was great though. It's
No, it
a
is.
great side note there.
Brings it back together, you know. But you guys have something else.
I never was at the Cheetah though.
Really?
The first time I went to the Cheetah was with Raven. And when I walked in there, this is 1991. It looked like they shook a Playboy in a penthouse and the girls just fell in the bar.
Oh my
They were the
God.
most beautiful women I
And
have ever
tons
seen.
of them.
They were, it was unbelievable to me.
Well,
And-
police seated what, 1,500, 1,800, something like that.
It was-
And it had the #2 restaurant in the city during the Olympics.
Back to, one of the reasons why the boys went to so many strip joints is because there would go and we wouldn't get bothered anywhere
Yeah.
near as much.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. See, if you go in a strip joint, a guy's coming up there bugging you, he's got a real problem.
Yeah, it's
A
like
real problem.
there's naked
Are you
women
kidding?
everywhere.
There's naked women everywhere, and you're going to talk to me? Is my fly undone or what? You know, you're checking your own stuff out. No, they protected you because they just want you to spend money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And we went there because we wanted just to be left alone.
just chill out, you know.
Not that we were ever left alone.
Yeah.
Well, that's a different
Well-
story.
Well, Jake, I've heard a lot of wrestlers over the years sort of equate stand-up comedians, female adult stage artists, if you will, and professional wrestlers. They have sort of a similar lifestyle, right? You're working clubs,
Yeah.
you're trying to portray
Yeah.
a gimmick, you're trying to get over, you're
Yeah.
trying to, you know, generate some revenue, tell a story, right?
And you're not really that person.
Right.
You know, it's a persona that you've put out there. And, you know, hey, if I'd have been a woman, I'd have been a stripper. Probably wouldn't have made any money, but
No,
I
yeah.
would have tried. Actually, I did wind up on the stage at the Cheetah one night. Sorry.
Bottom line is that's why a lot of the boys end up at strip joints because they don't get bothered as much.
Yeah,
And,
you're safe.
Yeah, and we just could have a few drinks, talk to a few girls, and move on to the next town.
Yep.
And then it would always be like when you're going to the next town, like, what is the best place that you would want to go out? Because back in our day, man, we drank a lot, you know, and
In New York City, you could go to a nightclub because, you know, New York City. But you went to most places, you couldn't go into a bar or nightclub. It just, the people would just be all over you. And there's always some lady in there, some woman that the husband's about half drunk and she's like, oh, those wrestlers are so cool. I'll watch them on TV. Oh, honey, they ain't nothing. I'll show you.
yeah, well,
And there's no win in a bar fight.
No. So Dallas, much like you, a lot of folks didn't believe in Kevin Nash and WCW, but Vince McMahon did. And I can't help but wonder, did it ever cross your mind in 94 or 95 when you think you're ready, but WCW doesn't? Did it cross your mind about, hey, what's possible working with Vince?
100%. As a matter of fact, that story I told you about, I think it was last week or week before, and I was talking about where Hulk walked, you know, as I on that German tour.
Yeah.
He pulled me aside, and one of the things he had said, you know, like, I think we could draw, you know, huge money together. Before he walked away, I said, well, Hulk, I go, that would be amazing. I said, but you know, I'm at the end of it right now, man, you know, because these guys don't see it in me. They don't think I'm ever going to be anything. One of my best friends is Kevin Nash. And so we used to tag together. We stay in contact. You know, I've been talking to him about maybe me coming up there and asking for my release. And that night, I'm walking to the bus. And as I'm going up the stairs, Hulk called me Diamond all the time. Yeah, Diamond, come here. And I walked in and it was him and Eric. because Eric was on the tour. And he said to Eric, he said, you know, I know you guys are buddies. Everybody knows. But the bottom line is, I know you're not into the whole nepotism thing, helping him out, but this guy, I really believe somewhere down the line, him and I could draw huge money together.
Being a friend can help or can hurt.
Yeah.
You know,
And at the time, it was hurting him.
yeah, and Eric talked about it when he inducted me. He said I had to work 2 times harder. It was more like 5 times harder.
Yeah, it was.
You know, and the only time I ever got paid in that company, I didn't negotiate with Eric. I went to Harvey Schiller, and they really wanted me, you know, to stay. And I was in that spot, and my whole life would have been really different if I didn't. I'm glad I did what I did, because everything has a purpose to put me where I am today. So I wouldn't change anything along that level. But Bish, you know, he knew it was harder on me, you know, and he went to the booking committee, and he told them what Hulk said. The next day he showed up in my living room, you know, we're having a couple beers, and he said, all right, I got to tell you this. He said, I brought this to the booking committee. I told him what Hulk said. They don't see it. And he said, what you should do, let me give you your release.
Wow.
You go to New York. You get over the way you know you're gonna, because you're gonna make it happen. You come back here, you got a job with me for life. Because me and him have a really storied history together. You know, how we got together, pull apart fight. Like we
How Bish got his break.
Right. You know, helping him get the job. We have a real long story together, and we were best friends. And he said, you go up there, you get over, and I'll be able to, you know, give you what you want coming back. And you'll always have a job here.
That's a lot to ask.
And I said to him, I said, you know, that whole booking committee, I said, I'll tell you what, Jody Hamilton said I was going to be a top guy. Jake Roberts said I was going to be a top guy. Dusty Rhodes said I was going to be a top guy. And now Hulk Hogan says I'm going to be a top guy. I said, I'll tell you what, Bish, I ain't going nowhere, because you ain't made no new stars here. I'm going to stay here, and I'm going to get over, and I'm going to shove my fist so far up that booking committee, when I move my fingers, their mouth moves. That became like, I was so dialed in then. I was so dialed in that I didn't care what the booking committee thought. I was going to see this through, and I was going to do it here. And again, when you've got the support of top names of all time, and they see it, doesn't matter who else doesn't see it. You just got to keep working and keep putting that real work in that most people don't do. And you will finally get there. And that's how driven I was at that moment. But I thought about going for sure.
And he also had to be smart about the things they were giving him. I remember he came to me one time and they showed me something on TV they were doing. I said, brother, they're fixing to pull it out from under you, and they're going to leave you looking like a friggin' fool.
Let me tell you exactly what happened, because Bish had called me up because they're going to give me this opportunity. And
because he had squawked, they're finally going to give it to him.
They're going to give me an opportunity. And I told Jake, and Jake said, here's what's going to happen. They're going to put you in an angle with someone who means nothing. And I don't care how good you pull it off, it will mean nothing. And then you will end up saying, they'll be able to say, look, we gave him his chance.
Didn't draw.
And he didn't draw. I go, well, wait a second. What if the angle is really good? He goes, you don't get it. Here's what has to happen. He goes, I'm going to give you an example. Who's Robert Goldman? I said, the guy OJ killed. He said, exactly. Do you think you would know Robert Goldman if his neck was slashed by Alan Funt? Like, no. It had to be someone really big, someone who's really over. And OJ is that guy. So you're going to know everything that happened around OJ. It's got to be someone who means something. And if you take it back to where did it all happen with the NWO? And that's all my idea of me dropping, asking them to put the shirt on and me telling them, what? You two guys, you're like my boys. And what happened? You're asking me now, number 6? What happened to number 3 or 4?
Disrespect.
You're going now you want me? How about no? And I said to Kev originally when I brought it to him, I said, and you do just like you do. If you told me you wanted me to do something and I, had an attitude because my nose was turned the wrong way, you would say, oh, let Dally, he'll get over it. He'll get over it. And then I had him come back again, I said. And then the third time I put the shirt on, friggin', you turn your back, we hug. I friggin' Scott Hall high fives me when he pulls away. I pull him in, hit him with a cutter, and you go over the top rope. I take off through the people. Actually, it was Eric Bischoff's idea that I took off through the people.
That was brilliant.
Yeah, that was brilliant. Bish saw a lot of things in me. Like before that, he had made me, I had so many gimmicks. I was doing them all at the same time. Spitting the gun.
Good God.
Yeah, I mean, everything. And trying to find out who this guy was. But the reality was, and Bischoff saw this as it was starting to make sense coming towards the NWO. And that hadn't happened yet. But he was like, lose the gum, lose the glasses. And I'll never forget the night in Atlanta. And we're at the Phillips Center and we're sold out. We're getting white hot. And this is around the end of 96, going to 97. And he walked up to me. I was about to walk out there playing my music. He goes, lose a cigar. I go, come on, man. I really smoked the cigar. We smoke them all the time.
They're
He's
bad
like,
for you, Dallas.
lose the cigar. And I took it and I flicked it. I walked out. I got my biggest pop ever. Had nothing to do with the cigar, but he was right. And the more I just became myself, and stopped trying to be the over-the-top wrestling performer.
You don't have to be over the top.
Yeah, you don't. You just got to be yourself, amped up. And what happened was I told Kevin the idea, about me dropping them. And he was like, I love it. Go tell Bischoff. I go, I'm telling Bischoff. I got to tell Scott. He's taking the cutter. He goes, dude, you don't think he wants to help you? You created his gimmick. You got him a job when his wife was pregnant. No one would call him back. You don't think he wants to repay you? Plus, we need baby faces. You're a baby face that you just are. It's who you are. And I went and told Scott. I said, I got to tell Scott first. He goes, I love it. Go tell Bishop. I said, I ain't telling him shit. I go, let the big man tell him. And we went to, what was so great about Nitros is you got the work from 8 to 11. And then we went to the bar right in the hotel we were at. And we'd watch from 11 to 2. We'd watch the show. It was awesome. And that's where Kev brought it up. And Bish kind of like, oh, I don't know, and Scott Hall said something like, everybody knows you guys are buddies, man. He goes, being your friend is not a good thing.
Oh, sir.
I don't know how much longer I want to stay here. And I just looked at Scott. He said something like that. And Bish goes, you're right. Let's do it. And that was something that,
leap of faith.
It was like, wow, this is going to happen. And we started it. And we got those first couple of weeks in, and then I was supposed to drop them, but that's when Piper was coming in with all the bagpipes. And they said, we don't want this to get lost on the show.
That's true.
And I said, sure, let's change it. It changed 8 weeks in a row. And you'd have to look that up, because you're the guy who really does all the timelines, Conrad.
Well, as we're talking, Dallas, this is the 25th anniversary this month. That happened on January 13th, 1997. So how about that for timing?
Wow.
25 years ago this month, as we're talking, is when that whole angle happened at the Superdome.
Wow. And they put it off and put it off and put it off. And then finally I went to Sully and I was like, Sully, if this ain't gonna happen, just tell me. Cause I'll just ask for my release. I'll go to New York. I'll get a tryout, you know. And so he goes, no, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. And we did it in New Orleans. And that was our first dome show. And 33,000 people there, man. And when I put that shirt on, it sucked the air out of the building because they were like, not you, like not you too.
You were the last hope.
Yeah, right.
You were the last hope.
What really enabled it all to happen was Stinger going up into the rafters.
He ran.
He got out of there. He was like, I can see this writing on the wall. I paid my dues. I carried this company. I'm going to take a powder. And Scott Hall was the one who came up with the whole crow look. It was Scott that came up with that. And man, when I dropped those guys, man, that put me on a rocket and like something that I couldn't have foreseen. And then Randy wanting to work with me, that changed my life.
97 was your year, man.
Can you tell them how you felt that moment when you dropped him?
And the crowd pops and erupts.
I feel like I run through a brick wall.
Yeah,
I mean, the adrenaline of that. And Scott wanted to do it. You know, it was, those guys, they've been beating up people for a year and a half. Everybody.
Spray painting them, doing all sorts of shit.
Everybody. And I knew I would be getting my ass kicked moving forward. But that moment was great. And I just turned how I talk to the people to the NWO.
That's it. He didn't change.
I didn't change.
See, that's the key. That's the key right there. When you're a heel and you turn babyface, don't change what you do or who you are. Just direct it to the other party and not the fans. I can give you, I mean, I love the guy to death, but Lex Luger, God bless you, son. 1 week, he would go down to the ring and he'd be snarling and looking at people. They'd turn him babyface, and the next week he's running the ring high-fiving people. Killed it.
Well, he still got over, but
not like he should have.
Yeah, he was a juggernaut.
Oh yeah, he was awesome. But you don't change who you are. You just redirect what you're doing to the people, to the other person. That's all you do. You still go out there and pull the hair or kick a guy or throw a snake on him or whatever, because the people want to see you take that guy and direct it to these others and make them suffer.
Austin, same thing. Austin didn't change at all.
None. You can't. If you do, you've wasted it. You've wasted it.
Well, Dallas, your story is really one of perseverance. And when we go back to, after seeing Jake's WCW run coming to an end in 92, yours did too, but really nobody talks about that. I think you were working with what would become the Godwins, and you tore your rotator cuff and you found yourself out of a job. Tell us how that happened.
God, it was, working with the Godwins, and Tex Slazenger, I knew from when I worked with Dusty in Florida Championship Wrestling. So and him with
sweet guy.
Yeah, great guy. Him in Shanghai. Shanghai was 6'6", 300 plus pounds and thick, like just corn-fed, strong boy. And what I had done, the finish was supposed to be a 4-way, and I threw him into the ropes, and I went to give him an elbow, and I laid in with those big son bitches. And what happened is when Shanghai came off, he didn't come off. He came here, hit the rope, but I think I was too close when I hit him. So when he came off, his shoulder was forward, and I went to blast him, and it was like someone shot me in the shoulder. The only thing I could equate it to, I broke my shoulder. You know, I went down and I was dying.
Unbelievable.
And
thing.
I go, Shanghai, broke my shoulder, bro. Don't touch me. Tag in Tex. And I started rolling the cab. I go, don't come back. Don't come back to me. I broke my shoulder. I pull myself up on the ropes, and here comes Tex. And he's running as fast as he can run, that 300-pound body. And he hit me. I'm going, no. I got hit. I go to the floor. Oh my God. Kevin does a job. Friggin', he comes out, picks me up, carries me. He goes, "You really hurt, aren't you?" I go, "Really hurt." So I go to the back, and Mick Foley is working with us still. And Cactus, as I always like to call him, comes up to me. And he goes, "You're hurt." I go, "Really hurt?" He goes, "Let me see you move your arm." That was it. It's all I could do. He goes, "You tore your rotator cuff." I go, "No." He goes, "Yeah,
That's bad.
You tore your rotator cuff." So I was saying before, Grizz was his dad. He drove me back to Atlanta. It was 2 agents on the deal. He drove me. Just being in the car hurt. It was like so painful. I go to see the doctors. The doctors look at me. Then they bring in 2 more doctors. They look at me and they go, "We think you got a bone bruise." I go,
"Shit.
A bone bruise? Yeah, we want you to go get the dye in your shoulder."
Oh, that feels good.
So I go and I get that X-ray. They come back to go, "Yeah, you got a bone bruise." So should be okay in about 10 days. 7 days, I can't move my arm. I'm down the gym. I'm at Lex's gym and I'm on the Stairmaster. At least I got to keep my cardio going and whatever. And I told Lex, and he was like, "Dude, go see Dr. Bill Armstrong." I go see Dr. Bill Armstrong. He looks at it, he goes, "You tore your rotator cuff." I go, "That's what Cactus Jack said." So
he's a great doctor.
So I literally, I went down because I want to get fixed as soon as possible, but if I'm not going to be fixed by the time my contract's up.
Do you remember what town that was in? Was that in Hartselle, Alabama?
Yes, it was in Alabama. And when you say Hartsville, I wouldn't have remembered that, but it was in Alabama. I thought it was Ashland, but Hartsville, that sounds right.
Hartselle, Alabama had 150 fans in the crowd that night.
Yes.
The day before.
Made it hurt even worse.
Dude, that was, I can remember in those days being on a card with the man, Ric Flair on top, Luger, Sting, Warriors, and being in a Charlotte Coliseum and drawing 700 people.
Yeah.
Like these are the biggest names in the world, but it just wasn't hot right then.
Yeah.
Because wrestling, as you know, is so cyclical.
Yeah.
And I can remember, wrestling in front of, as a WCW 150.
You talk about your injury, the shoulder, the way it felt.
Right.
I was in Philadelphia, 2:00 in the afternoon, wrestling Andre the Giant.
Oh my God.
And I hit him with a clothesline. Okay. I ran at him. He stepped in, and when he stepped in, it was a little too far, and it ripped my pec in half.
Wow.
I went down. I thought I'd broke my shoulder, like you say. Right. I couldn't believe how much pain I was, but it's fixed to get a whole lot worse.
Oh my God.
Because Andre, God bless you, Mr. God, you were the best. Still on. Reached down with one of his big paws, grabbed my hand, and jerked me to my feet. At which time I passed out.
Oh my God.
When I woke up, Andre's got me in a bear hug and he's whispering in my ear, "You okay? You okay? I got you. I got you." I'm like, "God, no, I can't." He goes, "Yes, you okay. You stay. You stay." I'm gonna ring the bell. He goes, "Don't ring the bell. No. Just hold on." He rocked me and rocked me. I got in the car after that show, drove to Scranton, Pennsylvania that night and wrestled Andre again. Torn back in half. But in those days, man, we didn't have contracts that paid you off, and the bruising went away after about 10 days. I still got a hole in my chest because I didn't have insurance. I didn't get it fixed. That, and I was too job scared to take the time off.
Right. And you were making money.
And yeah, exactly. How do you walk away from 10 grand a week? Well, it's pretty damn hard.
I can remember back.
That was filmed. I don't mean to cut you off, Dallas, but you can go find that. It's December 17th, 1988, at the Philadelphia Spectrum. It was on the Prism Network. So throw it in your Google machine, December 17th, 1988, and you can see Jake tear his pec against Andre the Giant in the main event, no less.
Yep.
And he's exactly right. They ran check out how crazy the schedule was back then. I don't mean to derail us.
No,
on the 17th of December, 1988, you had a matinee show in Philadelphia, and then you had an evening show in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Yep. But there was another crew that night that ran Louisville, Kentucky, and there's another crew that night that ran Oakland and Los Angeles. There were 5 WWF shows on the same day. That's unbelievable.
Six.
Wow.
Two for each crew.
Bananas when you think about it. It really is. When you think about what you're doing to your body physically, plus the travel, and these aren't small men. These are large individuals traveling hundreds of miles between the shows, and there's all that many shows on a single day. That's how hot wrestling was in 88.
And catching 2 flights.
And when you're on the bottom of the card, there's 4 of you in a mid-sized car.
Yeah.
And you're driving 100 or 200 or 300 miles. Just remember when you drove an hour and a half somewhere and got out of the car like, oh God.
Yeah, right.
And you got a regular life, like brutal. And that's the difference between the guys of today you see who are so beat up from the journey and the guys who are working today, where they're going to be. They're hitting way harder, but they did a different level of hard. 2 shows a Saturday and a Sunday, and
they're working 1 show a week.
Yeah, you 93 straight days is
my record.
Yeah, I remember 97, 98. I probably worked. I had it 272 days in 1 year.
Oh.
Plus I did, which is nothing compared to what you did, but I was doing the Tonight Show and I was doing I was home 32 days that year, because you had to ride that tsunami.
Yeah.
And when you're riding it, you got to hit it.
I want to put in context what we're talking about here. Imagine if we've talked a lot about football off air here as a group. Can you imagine if an NFL team had a matinee game and then a night game on the same day in another town? It sounds make believe.
I'd like to collect their check.
and Jake, back then, these were different rings than what the guys are using these days, especially in the WWF. They had a reputation as being the land of the giants. And we've heard guys like Sean Waltman describe that ring as a smaller man. Now it was concrete. There was no give in those rings, right?
We used to joke that taking a bump outside was easier on you. And it was concrete. Go figure that out. Yeah.
So Dallas, to pull it back around, after you tear your rotator cuff, it's not too long and you find yourself out of a job in WCW. How does that happen?
I had to go in to see Bill Watts, and I knew Bill was going to let me go. I mean, I'm 36 years old. I've been working.
And you're hurt.
Yeah. And maybe I've been working 6 or 7 months by that time. I'm not exactly sure the timeline, but I know that he's going to let me go. And I said to him, I said, listen, Bill, I know you're going to let me go. So I'm going to save you that and tell you that I want my release. And I'm going to go up and work with Cornette, and I'm going to work with Jake on the road. I'm going to do independence, and I'm going to come back, and you're going to want me to come back. And I don't see Bill Watts until he goes into the Hall of Fame. And I am in the green room, and I hear Diamond Dallas Page, and I didn't even recognize Cowboy because he leaned up so much. And he came up and he went, "Kid." Oh, and he put me over huge. You said you were going to do, you put the work in. He goes, I got to tell you, I didn't see it coming, but man, you made a believer out of me. And I was like, wow, thanks, Bill. And I don't have the same relationship that Jake had with him. I didn't really have a good relationship when I was there with him, but afterwards, Cowboy, he was really, we talked, and I was okay with him with everything, and plus I love his son. So.
And we should mention the dream didn't end. You come back December 3rd, 1993 in Dalton, Georgia, of all places. Do you remember who your opponent was that night, Dallas, when you got back with WCW?
God, no.
Maybe this name rings a bell. Scott D'Amore.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Scotty, I will guarantee you that as young as Scott was then, that I had a competitive match with him. I guarantee I went out there and had a good match because he reminded me a lot of Raven when it came to understanding the business. And now look at him. He's running Impact, and that's pretty cool, man. I always liked Scotty. Good guy. That
same taping is where you did that whole fishbowl idea that we talked about a few episodes ago. And I think this episode is really all about your shirt. The shirt you're wearing today says Unstoppable. And this time of year, you've got something pretty cool going on. The Positively Unstoppable Challenge. What's going on with that, Dallas?
Man, that's something that
this is really cool.
Yeah, Steve, you came up with this idea off of the book that I wrote a couple of years ago, Positively Unstoppable. And it was giving people a chance to, over a year, well, not even 10 months, from January to the end of October, you could have 6 months of your best transformation. You start January 1st, it ends June 31st or 30th, whatever the end of June. If you start in February, it ends in July, and so forth. And you've got 6 months to, not just change your life, but really teach you how to own your life. And you can win $250,000. Last year, third place was supposed to get $5,000. Second place was supposed to get $10,000. And first place gets $25,000 guaranteed. I couldn't pick 3 people this year. So I picked 6, and I added a tie for second and gave them both $5,000, and a tie for fourth, and I gave them both $2,500. So it cost me personally an extra $10,000 because I couldn't pick. I could not have this group of people were so amazing, not just their physical transformation, their mental transformation. Then it came down to how they documented their journey, and then what they did before and after the contest. Like, how did they continue on this journey that they're on? And I tell you, the kid who won last year, just won for this year, for 2021. His name is Brian Tan. This guy goes from 390 pounds to 220 pounds. Not over 6 months. He lost 100 pounds going into the contest. Then over the contest, he lost another 60. And then after the contest, he lost another 10. I mean, to see his transformation's unbelievable. But so many of the people who get in this journey, he didn't get into it to win money. He got into it looking for hope and being a part of this journey that we put people on. And last year we had 5,000 or 6,000 people enter. This year, I'm sure it's going to double that. And we're restructuring everything in the contest because there's so many of the people who are winners, just because they get in it and they get a part. If you go to Steve, was it positivelyunstoppable.com? Positivelyunstoppable.com. You can see everything there. And if you put the work in, I guarantee you just don't change your life. You start owning your life. And it's something we're really proud of. This is our 4th year doing it. So it's been really, really successful all the way around.
When you have the opportunity to have people believe in you and have people encourage you and to have people cheer you on, it's crazy what you can do. I gained so much, not just in getting myself sober and clean, but I became a much, much, much different person. and the guy today I love who I've become, man, because I'm kind, I'm thoughtful, I'm gracious. Yeah, me. Crazy.
I don't know, just recently got introduced over the last couple of years to one of my closest people on the planet to me. Like coming out when we got together 20, 30 years ago, whatever the hell it was, God, 35 years ago, different people, and we grow and we change. And Jake, as he's going through this journey, has changed me. It made you, as you get, one of the beautiful things about getting older is if you take it in and put the work in, you get more enlightened just to what life is about.
Yes.
And
what real life's about.
Yeah.
And what real love is. What real love is.
That's a beautiful thing. And that's one of the reasons why when, we came to Conrad, Jake had come to me and said, I really want to do a podcast with you.
Yeah.
I think it would be great. I go, well, the only way we're going to do it is we got to do it with Conrad. And he goes, yeah, I love Conrad. I said, well, let me see if he's got the time. God, he's got so many damn podcasts. And when I called him and told him, he was like, dude, I love this. He goes, plus this will be so different, because we are all about the positive message, and, helping people enlighten themselves.
Yeah.
And that's really, when you join a Positively Unstoppable contest, every single person who puts the work in is winners.
Yeah.
Because that's what you came there for. And some of the people, like 2 years ago, all 4 people that ended up, because I couldn't pick 3 then either, they were like so unbelievably different. And like who they are today and how they help people. And all of a sudden, this dark, dark, dark place you live in isn't so dark. And it has light and it has hope and
it has joy.
And it just gives people a whole different way of life.
Check it out, positivelyunstoppable.com. And speaking of unstoppable, so are the Spades. We're talking all things heels. We talked about episode 1 last week.
I love the ending.
Yeah. Let's pick it up where we left off. Jake, what'd you think of
I love the ending of 1.
Wait, so before we say this, if you didn't hear and you want to hear, like if you're not watching the show, if you're not watching Heels on Stars, then go and watch episode 1, come back to this. Because this is where it's a spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Because we're going to talk about what happened in episode 1, what we didn't like and what we did like, especially into the finish. And then we go into episode 2. We won't talk about the end of it. We'll talk about that next week. So just so you know how it goes. So if you keep watching now, spoiler alert, pay attention if you want.
At the end of episode 1, we had Ace fixing to leave his brother's company, man, and the family and the fans and everybody and go to the big show.
He's giving the big nugget.
Yeah.
The big nugget. Everybody.
The carrot, the nugget. They dangled it in front of him.
I got to dig in this. How many independent wrestling companies? Dylan runs our bus. One of our close buddies
runs a great company.
Dylan Freimeyer runs SHW, Southern Honor Wrestling, with another good buddy of ours who works here, Nathan Mowry, and Rich from Fozzy is also another owner of the company. And the bottom line is they are running an unbelievable little territory. Every month they do their shows and it builds the whole time. So this is a company down in Georgia that they're doing in this show Heels. And to get a shot to go to the show, whether it's AEW or WWE, make it to that spot. Impact Wrestling, ROH, getting a shot to get out of the independent world and come to a show and be in that spot. That's a really big deal.
Huge. But he doesn't want to do the job. Oh, we've seen that happen before, haven't we, Brett? You and Sean, right? Huh? The screw job. What a load of shit that was. And I say it because I love both of those guys, but you cannot let the inmates run the asylum. And that's what's happened here, And The brother doesn't say too much about it. They have a little face off right before they go to the ring.
Yeah,
Try to
choke
strangle
off.
each other. Typical of brothers. And I don't mean that just blood brothers, just brothers in wrestling. I mean, it's happened a lot. And they get in the ring, and the brother decides he's got to take the bull by the horns. And that's what happened, Brett. I mean, Ace. He took it by the horns and he dumped him on his head and hooked the arm and bent it far enough back that he was about to break it, and he had to let it go. And left him a crying mess in the middle of the ring, which was hugely humiliating and not a good send-off. And that's the way the show went. I love that ending because, God, how many doors does that open for the next show?
Yeah.
Well, the next show comes up and we're still dealing with the repercussions of this. The family's up in arms. The people in town are up in arms. They're laughing at Ace. He's being humiliated even more. He's ready to end his life, basically. And, you know, in our world, you have to trust your opponent, man, with your life and your body every time you step into that ring. So there's a lot of things that could happen that don't. Not every time. But in this one, it did.
So let me give you my opinion on that. You see, I kind of felt different than that, Jake. Like,
oh, I did.
When I saw Jackson, I'm just using them instead of using their real names, using their character names, just like it would in our world, you know. When I see Jack and I know, you know, he's got something brewing, like he ain't gonna put his brother over the way he needs to. Now, part of him is he's protecting his brother because he knows that brother ain't ready for the show.
No.
He is a long way. He's a crybaby, which is something that really comes out in the end of it.
Yeah.
And of course, Ludwig is playing a great role. He's a great actor. So he really gets into the part there. And when Jack dumps Ace on his head and then rips the arm back, the ref, I love the ref. The ref sold it, man. Like, what are you doing, Jack? Like, just call it.
Man. Call it.
Yeah, man, and do your job. And he calls it, and you know, he goes down, and I could see it hurt. I didn't like the crying, even though that became a thing, the crybaby.
Yeah.
I didn't buy that because that's a tough son of a bitch kid.
Yeah.
He's a hard-headed kid. Now, they set it up earlier in the first episode where he talks about he lost a football game when he cried.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's because it meant so much to him. It's football.
Well, they're setting it up for the next term or down the road.
Yeah.
They're doing
100%. But I still didn't like the fact that he crybabied. And I've been in a ring where they're throwing shit like crazy.
Oh, God.
Because I was against the NWO many times when they all started just killing me and the shit was flying from everywhere.
Buddy.
I would work myself under the turnbuckle.
Yep.
I just roll just so shit would hit that before it hit me.
You gotta be safe, man.
Yeah, man.
I remember working for the Clowns, man. I got hit with a fish about that long. Me and Scott Hall. Scott got out of the ring, went out in the crowd, and beat the shit out of the guy. I won the match.
The fact that the crying, and that kind of bothered me. I love the comeback punch in the face, and I love how Jack sold it.
Yep.
I like the people. I thought it was a bit much with the throwing of shit, and how they turned on him so quick.
That just goes to show you how fickle fans can be.
No, I get that too, but I think it would have been 50-50.
DDT,
yeah. I still think, it's my opinion. Again, we don't talk about this shit.
No.
You know, and we both have different views on certain things. Like, I did like the finish that he took him. I didn't like the fact that he cried, but it set shit up.
I love the way they brought them back together, though.
Yes.
The bar scene.
Yeah, right.
And what did you like best about the bar scene? I'll tell you mine.
The best part about the bar scene was, first of all, I think when he walked in there and he let him continue to do what he was doing, being the big brother, while the other guys were calling him out.
Yeah.
And then once they got done with that,
parking lot.
the parking lot.
That's the best part.
Yeah, the best part where they friggin' turn around and go, "You're a piece of shit, just like your old man."
And the brothers,
They
then
both
reunite, and they're coming towards him. But who
Boom.
saves the day?
The girl, baby.
The girl.
They got Crystal. That's why I say she got money,
Yeah.
and that's you got.
She got over.
Yeah, and she can thank that Lita for that,
Yeah.
because Lita's the one who got that over. You know, a million different luchadors have done that Hurricanrana. Lita was the one to get it off
Yeah.
the top rope
Yeah.
to the guy on the floor, and just crazy stuff. And Crystal must have watched that, or Kelly must have watched that a lot, because either her or the stunt girl, she looked real good doing it. And that right there, I mean, that girl, I looked at her and I say, she's money, man.
Oh yeah,
She's
is. She's gonna be
beautiful.
money.
She's got great energy. I really like that. So you have anything else to say about the first episode?
Yeah. Well,
Or you want, we'll go into the second?
this is the second, isn't it?
No,
About the bar scene. I want to jump
Oh,
in
the
about
first-
the bar scene. I like
Go
that.
ahead. What do you think about the bar
There's
scene?
the brother aspect of, and everybody who has family members, whether it's a brother or sister or whatever, when you're kids, sometimes you fight like cats and dogs because that's what siblings do.
Right.
But it becomes a deal where, hey, I can say that to her, or I can do that to her, but you.
Right.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Right.
And so when the chips were down, even though these guys hate each other, they're not on speaking terms, the relationship has never been worse. That's between us. We're not going to let these
thicker
other
than water.
strangers. Yes,
Blood
absolutely.
is thicker than water.
I like that.
Right. We are in the second part.
And there was another thing there that Jack and Ace got over. And Scott Hall has said it best. I never had a problem in the ring. It's after the match was over.
Right.
Because when you're in that ring, it's a very special place. You fans, you've never been there, you don't understand it. But I can be in the back, sick as a dog, throwing my guts up, diarrhea going on, whatever. When that bell rings,
Right.
when I get in that ring, I'm good. Even with my worst hangover, when I'd been up for 3 or 4 days doing cocaine, felt like shit, could barely walk. When the bell rang, I would go to the ring, and not only would I put in the time they wanted, I would throw in an extra 15 because I'd punish myself for being such a dumbass. There's something that happens in that ring that just makes you release all your troubles. Let it all go, because everything's smooth now. Everything's good now because I have control of everything.
There's one of the things in episode 2 that I really loved, that Jack and Ace have that moment outside the hospital, and where he talks about,
That was it.
Yeah. The same thing you were saying right there, that if we ain't wrestlers, like if you ain't doing this,
We're not.
we're not who we are. And no matter where you are on any level, whether it's the independent world or the show, it
You're serious about it.
It becomes a piece of you.
Yeah.
And you give your body up each week. And some of the things I like how they, and interesting, not to give up too much stuff for, episode 2, but the guy, Charlie Gully, he's a great actor, that dude, the other wrestling organizations.
Yeah.
They're starting to build him in there. Like there's a competition thing here, and he wants the guys. He wants your best guys.
Yeah.
He wants to come in and take.
And that happens all the time, folks.
All the time. But overall, with 2, first of all, I want to say, we don't throw anywhere as many F-bombs as they do on that show. And everybody has got an F-bomb. And
I didn't get near as much tail as they get on that
and
show.
that's
either.
the other thing. They ain't afraid to show some getting busy.
Yeah.
And it's classy, but it's good. It's the business.
I'll tell you the one thing I didn't like.
What didn't you like?
The chick dipping snuff.
Yeah, I didn't buy that.
I didn't buy
That Siska, that was, she might have came up with that, or that might have been written in.
I'd still kiss her.
Yeah. She's a beauty, but I ain't buying or putting
I
that
ain't
stuff
buying
in
that.
your
Not no worm dirt in those lips. No,
lip.
no.
But overall, we'll give the final of what two.
I tell you,
will
the
be.
second show is what sold me on this thing. The
That's-
first one, I was like, this isn't going to be a whole lot of fun watching this every week, but I'm going to do it because we're going to talk about it. They come back in the second show. Now I'm ready to watch.
right.
I'm ready to watch.
And that's what I tell you. You get first 2 episodes. By the time you get in the third, you're like, wow, this is pretty
interesting.
cool.
Like, you wonder where they're going to go.
Yeah, and there's so many places to go.
Oh God, yeah.
And like the Wild Bill character, still my favorite. I mean, I love what Ludwig and Emil are doing with the brother thing. I can feel it. I mean, it feels real.
Yeah.
It feels like you're almost like you are now, sitting in on a conversation with us.
Yeah.
And so that's from the time that you can tell Emil is really put in to wrestling and being one of the boys that he is. And Ludwig, like that cat, he needs to be showing up AEW or somebody. And I want to see him go. I want to see him in a match because he's jumping off the top rope and landing on his feet.
Yeah.
And that cat's like 6'1" or so.
Yeah.
He might be 6'2".
He might have a spot somewhere.
Yeah, man, he's got he's not just a
And
talented
James
actor.
Harrison, you got a spot too, son.
Yeah, he's got some real charisma, and I love the spot because he also is coming off of being up from a rehab too.
Oh, James is?
Yeah, that's one of the things that they say. No, not from him personally, the character.
The
They
character.
mentioned
Yes,
that.
I
They
noticed
mentioned
that.
that. They just slipped that in there.
Yeah.
So
that
again,
was good.
something
That was
that
good.
again,
Reality.
stuff. So we'll give you opinions on number 2 next week.
This was number 2.
I know, but I'm talking.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you know what I mean. We'll give you anything cutting, of the finish, what we thought of that, and then we'll head into number 3 at some point. So
And more snake stories to come.
And by the way, something that Jake has said here on the show proves out in this series. Backstage in real life, if you will, the heels are the baby faces and the baby faces are the heels, and that's evident right here in heels. And
absolutely, that's I really love that.
yeah, that's a part that I really like, that how Ace took that character and like he went all in.
Oh, he did.
He went all in, and that's
He made
how.
himself a complete douchebag.
Yes, he did.
To us.
Yeah, like understanding why he's doing it, and
The fans loved it.
the stuff that he doesn't know. Like you don't realize, like, dude, you're not ready for the show.
Yeah.
They will eat you up and spit
Spit
you out. You'll never make it. You'll be up and got your shot, and then you're done.
Yeah, he'd be slicing his wrist.
Yeah. So your brother's
Or crawling
really,
into a bottle.
your brother's really saving you. That's what's happening here. He's
Boy, it's really hard to take that though, isn't it?
Yeah. Sure.
It's tough love. Is that what they call that?
Yeah. We've been there.
He did that to me.
well, we hope you guys are digging what we're doing here on DDP Snake Pit. We've had a lot of fun. Hope you hit the subscribe button and tell your friends about what we're doing here. Leave us a 5-star review if you think we've earned it. Don't forget to check out positivelyunstoppable.com. And man, I'm looking forward to next week. Dallas, what are you thinking? We're 4 episodes in. You having fun so far?
No, dude, I love it. I think that, it's so natural. We're just hanging out. We're here at the DDP Yoga Performance Center, which is where anything you see, like, any kind of vignettes or stuff that's been worked on in AEW, it's all filmed here. Like my crew here, man, they're great.
Unbelievable.
They like Cody comes here. We were following Cody before there was an All In. We were following him and helping him get the message out about that. When he called out and said they were going to do 10,000 people.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Oh my God.
How many years ago that was, and how absurd that comment was.
They died laughing.
Yeah, and
until
then
it
Meltzer,
happened.
thank God that Meltzer called them, and said, hey, Cody's a little overzealous. Him and the Bucks, they might, him and Kenny Omega, the Bucks, they might draw 4,000, but 10,000. And then Cody came right back with, hey, I'll take that bet, Dave. He had no idea how he was going to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
But he did it.
And not only
The
that,
group
they
did
go
it.
back and they do it 3 days in a row
Yeah.
later on.
Yeah. Crazy, man. And now what that company come in, it's, the WWE is the mecca of wrestling. You can think what you want about all wrestling, but it's the granddaddy. But AEW has made its mark, and they are for real. And if you watch some of what's happening on Impact today, Impact has definitely elevated their game. Like, it's a great time. You know what's great for? The boys,
And
the girls.
competition is good.
Right. It's great for the business. And that's why when me and Jake talked about it, about doing this, and I talked to Connie about it, as far as, doing this thing with heels, it's great for the business.
Yes.
It's great to the business in general. Again, people who love what we do. The Rock got us the most respect ever, by being the guy. And now, like I said before, Cena and Batista and
Opportunity.
Adam Copeland, all these guys.
Jake
Roberts. Yes. And if you guys haven't seen Peanut Butter
Falcon.
Peanut Butter Falcon, Jake killed it in Peanut Butter Falcon. And we got a lot of really cool things happening coming up this year, and we'll keep you guys abreast of keep an eye out on Netflix for the Guardians of Justice, which is a very dark superhero series that I've got coming up too. So here in the second quarter of 2022. So it's a great time to just to be doing what we're doing, man. And Connie, appreciate you having us on and running the show here.
Man, thank you guys for joining us. We're having a lot of fun. I consider myself the first listener, and I can't wait to listen next week. We'll see you right here on DDP Snake Pit.